Review podcast, the review podcast. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Brie.
Hi, Anthony.
My name's Anthony.
And I'm Brie.
And this is the Review Podcast.
We're glad
Coming to
you're
you
here.
live from our little makeshift studio with our dinos back in the game over here. Dinos are back. We did Jurassic Park, then we did some Halloweens, and now we're back doing the Lost World.
One of my favorite books to it's a gnarly. There's some gruesome deaths in the Lost World, the novel.
Yeah, well, the novel, like you've been telling me, the novel and the movie are like two completely separate entities.
Yeah,
essentially.
I would say they very loosely, they both take place on Isla Sorna, and that's pretty much that's it. I mean, the Tyrannosaur baby taking that, and that's
Is that from the novel?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, other than that, like really not much of the same. So
before we get started, Brie, I don't know if I asked you this on the last Jurassic Park one. I think I might have forgot to ask you the questions of all questions, the Halloween ones I've been asking you all the time. What scares you? This one I want to ask, what thrills you?
What thrills me?
What's exciting to you?
What's exciting to me? So one of the most exciting things, and this is because I'm a teacher, I'm a nerd, learning something new. Like something you've never learned. Like there was some research I did on some of the dinosaurs for this one where like you learn stuff that's new. I mean, I turned to you during the movie and I was like, you know what? Like the more I research the dinosaurs, because I want to give you a little background on each dinosaur. I want to make sure I have like all my dinosaur knowledge. So I pat down. I'm like, you know, for being a movie called Jurassic Park, like nearly all of the dinosaurs are from the Cretaceous period.
Right.
And
Yeah,
not
you
the
did tell me
Jurassic
that.
period.
But I guess the name wouldn't be as like roll off the
Cretaceous Park.
tongue. Yeah. But they did Camp Cretaceous, right?
Yes.
Like on Netflix, there's that show.
Where we have not watched it, but my nephew watches it.
Well, we were kind of watching it when we were over at your brother's.
It's kind
that
of
one day.
intense.
I was like, this is really like dark because like people die, and that's just it's a show for kids. It's a cartoon. It's like,
and
people freaking die.
He loves it. My nephew and I, we're gonna be like super close once he's like a little bit older, and I can like take him to like all the dinosaur stuff like I like to go to.
Dino boy.
We're gonna have a lot of fun. It's just gonna be because, you know, I hope my kid loves dinosaurs as much as I love dinosaurs. Like my nephew loves dinosaurs, which is really exciting for me.
I mean, dinosaurs are cool. I said this on the last Jurassic Park podcast where it was like, I've never met anybody that doesn't think dinosaurs are cool. Everybody thinks dinosaurs are cool. Whether you think dinosaurs are cool or not, dinosaurs are cool. They're cool.
I don't know if people are obsessed with dinosaurs to the extent where like I am. Like
look at our desk here.
I'm a grown adult.
Yeah.
And I'm obsessed with dinosaurs. I love learning new things about dinosaurs. I don't teach dinosaurs in first grade, but I teach you know what I mean? Like it's not part of our curriculum, but like I teach.
Oh, we all do that as
dinosaurs.
Teachers. Like it's not part of your curriculum, but you still like talk about it. Like I talk movies all the time.
I talk about sharks too
students.
because like I have a back tattoo. My back tattoo is a shark, and the kids can sometimes see it. And like they ask questions about it. I'm like, well, it's a tiger shark. Like I'll go into like what a tiger shark is and like all different types of sharks. And we talk about how like most sharks, like they're not out there and they're not trying to get people. It's mistaken identity most of the time. Why is it mistaken identity? We've gone over this in first grade, so the kids know.
Maybe we should watch Jaws one day. That'd be cool.
That would be a good one.
We're on a Spielberg kick.
I mean,
recently.
Who's the director of photography though?
It's not Dean Cunley. So I learned this, speaking of learning new things, since we've been doing all of these Halloween movies, I told Brie, as I was doing my little bit of research on Jurassic Park, the director of photography, the DP of Jurassic Park 2, Halloween, Halloween 2, and Halloween 3 is one guy. It's the same guy. It's Dean Cunley. And while I don't think Dean Cunley was the DP for Halloween 4, 5, 6, a majority of the movies that we've been reviewing thus far on the pod got the same guy doing cinematography. Dean Cunley is the man, the legend. He's a cool dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know much about him other than he did these movies.
I mean, they're well done. So I want to just go over, like, the book is an entirely different piece of media than the movie. So I recommend, like, if you have the opportunity, you like to read, and you want the opportunity to read the book, it's very different. The characters are different. They add characters in the movie and they take away some of the characters. One of the biggest differences is that there are 2 kids that stow away in the book, and they are lab assistants to the doctor that goes to the island first. It's not Sarah who goes to the island.
They mix the role of those kids together to create one mega kid in the movie.
The 2 kids' names are Kelly and RB, and they keep Kelly. Is
it RB or RB like
RB
Arby's?
like R.B?
ARBY.
No, R.B.
Arby's.
His name is RB Benton. So
Okay.
he's like, they're 2 like lab assistants, but kid lab assistants.
Heir to the Arby's throne.
And they have no relation to anybody. They're just lab assistants, like kid lab assistants. But then they get rid of that. They keep the name Kelly, but they make Kelly Dr. Malcolm's daughter.
Right.
They add Nick Van Owen. He's
Played
a new person.
by Vince Vaughn, who, upon my reviewing of this movie, which I haven't seen The Lost World since I was a kid, I was like, Vince Vaughn's in this movie? That's kind of interesting. I wouldn't think of Vince Vaughn as an action star, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, so Levine is like the person who rushes the island before the government discovers it. It's not, no one sends him there. He goes there. And then he takes, Malcolm takes a rescue team to rescue this doctor, and it's Eddie Carr, which is the same from our thing. He takes Doc Thorne, and he's not in there. They get rid of Doc Thorne, and they replace him with Nick Von Owen, and then they have the 2 stowaways. And then the main villain in the book is Biosyn from the first movie and book, who try to take...
Biosyn's not in the first movie, though.
Yes, it is. It's the rival company that employs Nedry to steal the 15 embryos.
Okay, that makes sense. I completely forgot about that.
Levine is at work for going to explore the InGen complex. Meanwhile, Biosyn is they find out about the island, and they go to try to steal live eggs because they want the dinosaurs. Biosyn is the group. They find, they have a biologist, and then former girlfriend is Sarah Harding. So she's part of the Biosyn team. They kind of get rid of the whole Biosyn being the evil one. There's more
Biosyn isn't in this movie.
Yeah, it's not in here at all. And it kind of it still has the T-Rex parents finding the kid and that being their main thing, but it has more velociraptor deaths and more interesting velociraptor deaths. And they miss the helicopter at the end, and they have to go to a boat.
Okay. And is that where they get the whole the T-Rex is on the boat, or is that not in the book at all?
That's not in the book at all. There is no San Diego because the InGen is the villain in the movie.
Yeah.
Biosyn just there to get the eggs. They didn't want to grab live animals. They were there to get infant animals to raise, easier to transport. So it's a very different story. So it's important if you're going to go in, and I'm a big person who watched the movies before reading the books, but then as I became an adult, I was like, I'm going to pick up the books. I'm going to read. Because obviously, when I was first introduced to the series, I could not read these books. Now that I'm an adult, I can read these books. I think I read all the books so quickly because I was just so into it. But if you're going in, there's lots of similarities in the first book and the first movie, but then there's almost nothing with the second book. So let's get into it.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second just to let our viewers and our listeners know what's going on behind the scenes right now.
So we have a little brat.
Yeah, we have a little brat that's interrupting our pod right now. Kaido was laying and being very good He's our little puppy, little 7-month-old puppy, and he was being very good during our watch of the movie. And now he is taking this rubber ball that he has and dropping it very loudly in the background. And he keeps dropping it under the table where all of our wires are. So if you saw me in the video, Modem, get off mic for a second and go under the table, it's because I was getting his ball for him, and he keeps doing that. He keeps rolling under the table, but we'll deal with it.
I mean, I'm gonna hold on to it and just like play along with him a little bit so that he doesn't disturb us. So before we go into watching this movie, I made a treat, one of Brie's treats.
I would say, Brie, this is probably my favorite treat that you've done.
Oh, it's so good, and it's so easy. So you're gonna go to the store, you're gonna pick up instant like chocolate pudding. You're gonna pick up some Oreos. We picked up like the off-brand.
Yeah, Value Corner.
Just like
shout out Value Corner.
Like some.
We're not getting paid from them yet, but maybe one day.
I mean, sponsor me, Value Corner. Yeah. What their version of an Oreo cookie would be. A chocolate sandwich cookie. And then we picked up a thing of gummy worms. I wanted to get some dino gummies, but where we went, they're all out.
We were on a time crunch, and I wasn't going to fancy candy stores to get dino gummies, so we chose worms.
I mean, we're making dirt cups.
Yeah, dirt cups.
And they're pretty easy. So you're going to take your sandwich cookies, you're going to put them in a bag, take a rolling pin, you're going to beat the heck out of them. Then you're going to make the pudding. The pudding takes 5 minutes to make. It's so easy. It says you need a whisk to whisk it. I used our milk frother that we got for Christmas. Works fantastic. I use that milk frother for everything. Stir my coffee, whisk my eggs, make my whipped cream, now making pudding. I use it for everything.
I should have used the frother to mix the eggs. I used a fork.
So easy. The frother is the best gift we got for Christmas. I think I would use it the most.
Multi-purpose.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I love it. I didn't get the immersion blender that I wanted, but it's fine. So you put some of the cookies in the bottom, then you do a layer of the pudding, cookies, layer of the pudding, cookies, and then you're on top of the cookie. So it's cookies, pudding, like worms, cookies, pudding, worms, cookies. So that you're digging like you're digging. If you put the
I'm an archaeologist.
Like if you put the dinosaurs in it,
you're like Alan Grant.
You're Dr. Alan Grant, like going through the dirt cup. Yeah. We really enjoyed these. We ate them during the movie.
I did, yeah. Well, I didn't finish mine. It's in the fridge, but we made a little extra to show on the pod, and you'll always be able to see Brie's treats before the pod is released on our Instagram for bonus content, including Brie's treats. You can follow us on Instagram at review_pod. Aw, look at that. Kaido is getting a little frustrated that we're not paying attention to him. He growled at mommy. He's like, "Arr."
It's like, mommy, play.
Okay.
So let's get into it.
I'm going to do a little introduction here. So we are talking The Lost World, Jurassic Park, aka Jurassic Park 2. It's the sequel to 1993's Jurassic Park. Steven Spielberg came back to direct this. Same writer, same cinematographer, used pretty much the same major crew members as the first movie. The only notable absence from this movie, really notable absence, is Michael Crichton. And Brie kind of explained
he was unhappy with, I think, Crichton. So when he found out that they were making a second movie, he was like, okay, I'll write a second book, right? And like with the assumption that they were going to use his book as kind of like the blueprint.
Well, he apparently he never wrote a sequel before. And fans were like, we want a sequel because they love the movie so much. So he was kind of pressured to write this sequel, and he wrote it. But Steven Spielberg and the writer, whose name I can't remember right now, they were trying to write the sequel to the movie simultaneously. So they took some notes from Crichton's sequel with their ideas.
But as I said, they're vastly different pieces of media.
Right. And Crichton, according to the stories, wasn't super happy that they deviated from his book.
Understandably. But I'm going to be honest, like, oh my goodness, is the book, it's hard to get through. There's a lot of like horrible deaths.
Is it generally storyline wise, is it better than the movie, or is the movie better than the book?
I would say I enjoyed The Lost World a lot as a book.
Okay.
I mean, there are moments where like it's a page turner. It's like really interesting. I think having 2 kids stow away on the island is interesting. The kids get into situations where Kelly's never really like in danger. You know what I mean? Except for the one scene in the tent. But the kids get in some predicaments, you know? So it's nice. I mean, the kids survive, honestly. That's the best part about the early Jurassic Park series is kids and women pretty much make it.
Pretty much. So this movie is released in 1997. Oh my God. Kaido is jumping all over mommy. Aw, what a good boy. Okay, yeah, you can get down now. So the movie is released in 1997. This is 4 years after the release of Jurassic Park 1. Jurassic Park 1 being a huge success. So there's kind of some pressure here to capitalize on that success. The writer of the movie took fan suggestions while he was writing the movie, including adding more T-Rex and more Velociraptor, as well as adding a Stegosaurus in the movie.
Interesting fact about the Stegosaurus is that
Stego fact.
The first Stego fact of the day is the like the spikes at the end of its tail were used for defending itself, and then its plates were kind of just for display, attract mates and such.
The Stegs.
Yeah. So,
Steggy boy.
So interesting. I mean, there's a lot of dinosaurs in this one that we did not see in the first one. Being that there is an animal if not having a good eye for dinosaurs, you would think it's just another Brachiosaurus, and it's not. It's something completely different. But we'll get into it.
Yeah. So Spielberg apparently wanted the idea for this movie because he thought that the first movie was about herbivores versus carnivores, like the good dinosaurs versus the bad dinosaurs, so to speak. So he wanted to translate that to humans. So humans who are hunters, aka the big game hunters that we see, and
the
then
bad humans.
The humans that are gatherers, those who go to the island to observe and to take pictures and all that stuff. That's where we get kind of that general motif, I guess, for the movie. Well, let's get started, shall we?
Yeah, it opens up with some rich people. They dock their boat on an island.
Little girl played by Camila Bell.
I know. You noticed that too.
Yeah.
They're rich people vacationing. The little girl goes off by herself and she encounters Compsognathus.
Explain to us what a Compsognathus is.
It's a tiny meat-eating dinosaur.
It's this little guy. He's like this big.
They're tiny.
He's a little guy.
They travel, though, in groups.
So like one isn't going to hurt you, but a bunch of them will hurt you.
And they mostly travel together.
It's like a piranha on land, essentially.
And it's believed that they were probably scavengers, but these Compsognathus in the movie are like actively hunting. So interesting. The girl gets maimed.
We're on a different island. This time we're on Isla Sorna rather than Isla Nublar.
So the little girl gets maimed. She does not die.
But I don't know if that's ever established, right?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Was I just not paying attention?
Yeah, Hammond says the girl's fine, but it would cost them quite a bit of money, and it cost him his position at the company. He lost being the head of InGen because of this incident at Isla Sorna. So, I wrote down, don't feed the wildlife. I feel like...
Well, yeah, she's trying to feed the wildlife, and she sees this little dino guy, and I said, so she hears a little rustling, she sees this little CGI dinosaur, and she's just attacked by a bunch of them, like a swarm of them. And she says, I'm afraid there isn't enough to go around. And the dinos are like, yeah, there is.
So then we get Malcolm riding the subway. People do not believe in that Jurassic Park happened, and that's on purpose. The InGen team has really, like, they all signed NDAs before entering the park in the first movie.
And Malcolm broke that NDA by telling his story about what really happened on the park.
But no one else could confirm what happened because they had signed NDAs. So he kind of looked crazy, and it's implied that he lost a lot of opportunities, including his job at his university.
Yeah.
The kids are grown up.
The grandkids are in the movie for like a second.
I'm glad they got them back for it.
That's
like,
weird. That was like,
nice.
I don't know, not weird. I thought that they were gonna be a bigger part of the story.
I don't think they would go anywhere near that island ever again.
I told Brie this, honestly, like with all this dinosaur bullshit that happens on these islands, I would have, if I was one of these people that was like, whoa, a dinosaur, and then I go through this horrible experience of dealing with carnivorous dinosaurs, I would have been like, dude, fuck dinosaurs. Like, I don't want to be anywhere near dinosaurs. I don't want to talk about dinosaurs. I don't want to have anything to do with dinosaurs in my life. So Malcolm has broken the NDA. He's talked about it. Again, it's implied that he's lost a lot of opportunities. And he talks with John Hammond, and Hammond talks about Site B.
Yes. Before that, we get the whole, because of Hammond's, the issue with the rich people vacationing, the girl getting hurt on Site B, that, one second, I got it.
The dog, man.
I'm about to take this away. Okay, we go back. They talk about, because of the kid getting hurt on Site B, that now InGen goes to the nephew. So Hammond's lost control of his company. Now his nephew's running it. They want to take the dinosaurs from Site B and capitalize them. And then Hammond wants to send a group of people there to create like a living fossil record and document what's there, so in hopes that it becomes like a nature preserve, and then no one can take animals off or go on, and it's kind of just left alone. The nephew wants to make up money.
Yeah, so Site B in Isla Sorna is, as Hammond explains, where they bred the dinosaurs, and they kind of just let them roam around and be free and just like, without fencing. And
well, he explains like Site B is where they bred them, and then they let them like interact with each other. But then they also, like, they used to have like a research facility at Site B, but after that hurricane, after what happened on Site A, they kind of deserted the island and kind of let nature, and he says, though, well, life, finds a way.
As you said it so bluntly, life finds a way.
Yeah, so
life finds a way. And then Malcolm asks about the enzyme thing from the first movie. Lysine. So they have a lack of that enzyme, and that's why if they don't get it, it can kill them, right?
Within like 5 days they would die. He's like, what about that? And it's like, well, they're surviving without it, and we're going to find out later how they're surviving without it. And we do find out they are getting lysine. We just didn't know about it. And then Malcolm says, Hammond says like, oh, like, we're not making the same mistakes. And he goes, yeah, you're making all new mistakes.
Yeah. So,
and then he talks about the team that he's going to send.
He's sending a videographer,
Nick Van Owen.
He's sending a tech guy,
Eddie Carr.
And he's sending a paleontologist.
And he doesn't say who the paleontologist is on purpose.
So I wrote down a little note here. This is just a classic case of business ahead of lives, right?
Well, like, Hammond's not
doing it, but the nephew is. Hammond does it in the first movie. He wants to rush.
Yeah, he learned from his mistake. He wants it so that no one can go to this island.
Yeah.
He said, I've been successfully keeping this island a secret. He's like, but once my nephew took over, I was unable to keep this a secret.
Yeah, and so the nephew wants to, again, rush the process of bringing dinosaurs into the public. Differently now, he wants to bring dinosaurs to the mainland in San Diego, to good old US of A. And I just wrote,
bad idea.
This whole movie is a bad idea. Every decision made in this movie is a bad idea. Like Jurassic Park 1, to have a park full of dinosaurs and rush it is a bad idea. But to have a park of dinosaurs like isn't a terrible idea from the get-go. Like if you gave it time, it'd probably be okay. This movie, bring the dinosaurs to San Diego, horrible idea.
Horrible.
Everybody go to this island where the dinosaurs are roaming around free and you don't know what to expect. Even worse idea.
And then we find out that the paleontologist that they send is Sarah Harding, his girlfriend.
His GF.
His GF is who they sent.
But Hammond manipulates Malcolm, because Malcolm is like, hell no, I'm not going, and I'm contacting every single one that you said's going to be on the team, and I'm telling him not to go.
To be fair, Sarah Harding searched out him. Sarah wanted to go. Malcolm doesn't, but Hammond gets Malcolm to go by saying Sarah's already on the island. Yeah, he's like, now it's become a rescue mission, and he's gonna go.
I think Hammond does manipulate a little bit here. Like, Hammond isn't totally a good guy in this movie either. I don't think he's a good guy in the first movie. I think he's again, like we had that conversation with the first Jurassic Park, standing on the shoulders of the people who did the real accomplishments and trying to rush this without looking at the science. And then this movie, he backtracks from that, but still manipulates Jeff Goldblum's character to go on this island that he so really does not want to go to and might have traumatic
there's no doubt in my mind that, like, almost everyone who went has PTSD. So we have to go rescue Sarah. So now it turns into a rescue mission. While Malcolm thinks it's a rescue mission, we know Sarah went there by herself, like under her own, like she wanted to go. So it's unsure if she's going to be receptive to this rescue mission. Then we have Malcolm's daughter is introduced, Kelly.
Yeah. And I was a little confused because Kelly is played by a black actress and Jeff Goldblum is not black.
So it's to assume that whoever
that's what I made the assumption. I was like, the mother has to be black. They even make note of that in the movie. They're like, they said something along the lines of like, I don't see the resemblance, and I was like, oh yeah, well at least they acknowledge it, I guess. But I mean, what to me, like, it didn't matter, I guess. Like, I was totally accepting of
that's
the
his
fact
daughter.
that that's his daughter. Let's move on. Yeah.
And the daughter talks about like she doesn't want to stay with this lady who he wants to put her up with. She's like, why can't I stay with Sarah? So
I wrote down a quote that she says, it's Malcolm's kid, says of the babysitter, she doesn't even have Sega. Like a Sega Genesis. I was like, what a 1997 thing to say. She doesn't even have Sega.
She didn't want to stay with the babysitter. She wanted to hang out with Sarah, but he's like, Sarah's out of town, not telling Kelly that they're actually going to rescue Sarah. And he kind of says, you can't come with.
But he doesn't want to tell her why she can't come with. Like, he doesn't want to say anything about dinosaurs.
Yeah. Then he talks about, you want to go to your gymnastics meet, and that's when she says, I was cut from the team, Dad. Nice to know that you like care and pay attention.
It's like so he's not a bad dad, but he's kind of a bad dad.
Because Mom is not so great, because he kind of says something, he takes his anger out on the kid for a second. He's like, well, I'm sorry that your mom dropped you off before, like, without any...
For running to Paris.
And it's like, you can be mad at your co-parent, but, like, don't be mad at your co-parent in front of your child, because that doesn't help relationships. Mm-hmm. Co-parenting is hard.
Yeah.
And yeah. Then we get... She stows away.
Yeah, the kid stows away inside of, like, the truck or the lab.
The trailer.
Yeah.
She stows away. Not a good idea.
It's not a good idea. Like, what do you expect is going to happen when you stow away after your dad tells you not to come to this, like, whatever country that we're going to, that you're just like, hey, Dad, and he's going to be, like, cool with it? Like, no, she's going to be really, really mad at you.
And they take a boat to Isla Sorna, and the boat guy will not stay. He's like, I will not dock at this island. They call this group of island the Five Deaths. No one comes back from these islands alive. He's not going to stay. If you want to get a hold of me, you call me. It'll take 2 hours. I'll be here. Mm-hmm. Which I'm like, 2 hours? Like, you're really docked far away from this.
What if they're in trouble?
Like, what if you're in trouble? So I was like... Thanks, but no thanks, guy. Like, that doesn't help me at all.
I might as well swim.
Yeah. And they get off the boat, so it's...
No, you might as well not swim, because if they're cloning all these dinosaurs, like, you don't know what's under that water. There could be a Leopleurodon down there.
And not to spoil anything, but then we get into the third one, and we know the Stegosaurus swims.
Yeah.
Oh no, Spinosaurus.
The Spinosaurus swims. We'll get there in Jurassic Park 3, but I don't know if there's a Leopleurodon down there or something.
So they go off on, so it's Eddie, it's Owen, it's Malcolm. They're going off. They're being so loud. They're like screaming, Sarah, Sarah.
Yeah, on the island full of dangerous dinosaurs, y'all are gonna scream super loud, make a lot of noise just so you can attract the velociraptors potentially. That's a bad idea, my friend.
And then the first dinosaur we encounter on the island's the Stegosaurus. Malcolm's over it. Like
No, Malcolm's like, I don't give a shit about dinosaurs anymore. Like, I'm here to get the girl and I'm here to get the F out of here. He's so over dinosaurs. And
like Sarah, we meet Sarah and she's amazing.
Julianne Moore.
She's just in awe. Like, she's like, we have to be quiet. We're not going to disturb any of these creatures. We're here to observe and interact as minimally as possible.
She makes this note when she's talking to Malcolm about how she read somewhere from this one scientist that said that T-Rexes don't care about their young.
They like give birth and F off.
Yeah. So she makes this big like speech about how she is seeking to prove that that is untrue, that T-Rex does care about their young.
And they will protect their young, and they do, and their young stay with them.
Mm-hmm. What I like about, and I noticed this in the last Jurassic Park, where every time they mention these like details like that, it always comes back later on. So like, it makes the dialogue
purposeful.
Some would say it would make the dialogue cliche. Mm-hmm. That if you're being, we mentioned contrarianism. You're like, people don't like Jurassic Park just because everyone else likes Jurassic Park, right? So some would say that might be bad dialogue because you're insinuating that your audience might be dumb because they wouldn't understand whatever you're talking about. But when I think that's actually smart dialogue to put in there. It's that trope like we talked about in the last Jurassic Park episode, the Chekhov's gun. You introduce something so that it comes back later on in the story. It makes, like what you said, the dialogue is purposeful.
Yeah.
It makes everything matter in the dialogue. These characters aren't saying things to say them. They're saying things and they have meaning.
Sarah's main reason for going to the island is to see how dinosaurs behave with their young. Like, that's the only reason she's really there. She wants to know how they interact with their young. And she makes that note when she's observing the Stegosaurus. And, you know, she talks about, like, there's a note where she talks about the lysine. So here's where we get, why haven't these dinosaurs died after 5 days if they're supposed to have died if they don't get the lysine supplements? Well, the plants that the herbivores eat are high in lysine. The carnivores eat the herbivores, therefore they get their lysine and no one dies.
Life finds a way. So I made a note here that the Jurassic Park movies are very good about showing beauty and horror. So it's like you get these scenes where the scientists are so in awe of the dinosaurs. You get to pet the little Stego baby, and you get to interact with the Brachiosaurus, but we see, and it's very cool, like, you can put yourself in the shoes of those scientists and say, oh man, if I saw a dinosaur, that'd be so freaking sweet and be like awe-inspiring, it'd be amazing. But then you get the flip side of that.
It's terrifying.
It's also like a hugely terrifying experience where you could get ripped in half by a T-Rex or pounced on by a velociraptor, and it turns very quickly from beauty to horror if you're going about it the wrong way. I made this note to you.
He posed the same question. I posed
this question to you because we talked about this on the first Jurassic Park episode where I said, Brie, if you had the opportunity, if you were a paleontologist, even if you were just Brie right now,
I would go.
If you would go to Jurassic Park, would you go? And she said, 100%. I know the dangers that are involved. I would go. So I pose this question to you now. In Site B, where there are no fences, this isn't a park, this is free roam dinosaur land. Like, you don't know what the hell's out there. You still going to this area?
I'm going.
I think that's a dumb idea.
I'm going.
I think that's
she
not
explains
smart.
that the outer rim of the island is is occupied by the herbivores, and then the carnivores stick to the interior of the island. As long as I stick to where I know, stay downwind, like.
But Sarah, I know you, and I know you'd be like, I want to see a raptor.
I would care about my survival. Like, I love raptors. I think they're very interesting, especially the ones in here that are not. They're not the velociraptor that exists within the fossil records, but it's so fascinating, so awesome that, you know, like, I would be completely fine if the only animal that I encountered on my entire trip was a stegosaurus. Like, I'd be fine.
What if you could ride one?
I don't, considering how aggressive they got when they felt threatened, I don't think I would approach them. I think I would stay back and just take pictures.
Yeah. Just like pet the little baby stego.
And just be like in awe of like what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if so
you're not as brave.
I'm not as brave. And I'm not as much of a risk taker. I'd maybe go to the park because obviously, like, I know we shouldn't trust the security system at the park, but I probably would trust the security system at the park. The Island B, Isla Sorna, where it's just free roam dinosaur land, I don't think that I would have the cojones to.
I pose this question to you.
Sure.
Would you go to a wildlife reserve that was free roam?
Depending on the animals that are there.
It's just like the African savanna.
If it's like
all the animals.
It's all the animals.
Yeah. Hyenas, lions, zebra, giraffes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm that. I did go to a wildlife preserve one time in Texas where I saw a giraffe. I remember the giraffe because it was like you get to drive your car through it and the giraffe comes through like your window. And I remember that, and like that was cool, but that's a giraffe, right? Like if I'm coming into contact with in like a safari, or if I'm in one of those like vans without doors and without a hood, and I come into contact with like hyena or a lion, I would be a little, I don't know if this is a good idea, guys.
But to get me on one of these islands, like with the knowledge I have now, I would need someone with me. I would need like a Dr. Grant or like a Sarah Harding to be there with me. Someone who's very knowledgeable.
And I think dinosaurs are a completely different story than like a hyena, right? Like a bullet can take down a hyena. I don't know if a singular bullet can take down a T-Rex.
We don't know how hard their skin is, like how thick their skin is.
I mean, obviously not hard, since, spoiler alert, they trank a T-Rex later on in the movie with two darts.
We don't know if that would work. So then we have like this scene where we have Owen, he's lighting up a cigarette, and Sarah says, put that out, we don't want to interact, we want to make as little thing on this as possible. And then Malcolm, being the mathematician, he's like, it's Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, like us just being here is disrupting everything. And
chaos theory.
Yeah,
he doesn't mention chaos theory nearly as much in this movie, where he's just like, I'm here to get the girl, I'm here to save my daughter, I'm here to get the F out of this island. I don't give a toot about dinosaurs, I don't give a toot about chaos theory anymore. Like, I saw what happens, I'm leaving.
And then Eddie notices a fire coming from camp. They put it out, not with water, with dirt, because they don't want smoke to attract any dinosaurs. And then we find Kelly is here.
She's making eggs. And they're talking for a little bit. And then we hear helicopters, loud, just like a bunch of them. And I wrote, the evil comes.
The evil. Because you have the people who are trying to go there and make as little impact as possible. We're here to observe, we're here to take pictures, we're here to preserve. And then you have InGen, the big game hunter, and then the people who want to trap these animals. Yeah, so we later see this scene where they're kind of hunting these dinosaurs, and they're really just trying to capture them. They're trying to take them down, and the big game hunter, I think his name is Roland,
right? Roland's like, I'm trying to capture a T-Rex.
No, he's like, he wants to kill a T-Rex.
He wants to kill a T-Rex.
Like, that's his main goal. And in this, they're driving down a game trail, and the nephew's like, let's stop and make camp here. And he says, this is a game trail. Do you know what goes on a game trail? Like predators hunt on a game trail. He's like, if we set up camp here, we're easy pickings. He's like, you can set up camp here. I'm not going to set up camp here. And they kind of just like go on. But during this, we're seeing a bunch of dinosaurs running across the screen. There's Gallimimus is running. That's that one from the first movie that's running in the packs. Yep. Then we have what looks to be a Brachiosaurus. It is not. It's another long-necked dinosaur, and I will butcher the name of this because
please,
I have it like the name, the scientific name, and then the sound out.
The scientific dino community can come after our throats later on. Just say the name.
Mamenchisaurus. Sure. It's a long neck dinosaur.
I accept it.
Thank you. Then we have another one where I have to take my time to speak it.
Once again, the scientific dino community can come for us later.
It is the Pachycephalosaurus.
Big word.
They have that's the one that they kind of corner that has like the 9-inch thick skull.
Oh, and it tries to
headbutt.
Like it's gonna headbutt you.
Yeah, and it's one of those. It's our bipedal dinosaur. We see a lot of like quadrupeds.
Right.
This is the first like bipedal one we see. Other than
Gallimimus is bipedal.
Yeah, I guess you're correct. And T-Rex is also.
Look at me and my dinosaur knowledge.
T-Rex is also a bipedal. Then we had Ammontosaurus. We have Parasaurolophus. That's the one that looks like Ducky from Land Before Time, the adult version of Ducky. And then that's kind of like who we see running on this game trail. And they catch a lot of different game. They catch a Stegosaurus. They catch a Stegosaurus as well. We don't see them capture those two because they're not on the game trail in that scene. So they do InGen horrible. Worst idea ever. To have this.
Well, their idea is we want to capture the dinosaurs and bring them to the mainland, which we talked about that earlier in the pod. It's a terrible
their whole
idea.
thing is before Hammond decided to do the island, he had created a park in San Diego and it's pretty much ready to be opened, but he abandoned it and it's just sitting there unused. And the nephew's idea is like, the island was a bad idea. Let's just bring the dinosaurs to this park. One of each dinosaur.
I don't know who says that and thinks that this is a good idea. Like, at least the island can be contained in quarantine, but if you bring them to San Diego, you just have, animals get loose from zoos, right? Like, you hear the story once in a while, a bear got out of the zoo and is, like, in people's backyards. So you open up a giant can of worms for dinosaurs, which are, depending on the dinosaur, much more dangerous than a bear.
Well, we see like the first team A of the people who are there.
Team A, aka the gatherers, according to Spielberg.
The good guys.
Yeah.
They go to the camp and they kind of see all these animals in cages. And meanwhile, we have the game hunter has injured a baby T-Rex and is using it as bait for the adult T-Rexes. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So the team A gets there. They can't believe they're capturing all these animals. So they start releasing these animals.
And the animals just wreak havoc on the camp.
And you see they're given a speech in a tent, and the Triceratops goes right through and knocks people here, there, and everywhere. It's these are dangerous animals. Even the herbivores are not safe. They're not safe. These are giant creatures that are wild creatures. I was like, these don't belong in cages, and they don't belong on the mainland.
I have a question for you.
Go, ask away.
Let's say we figure out how to clone dinosaurs. Same exact scenario happens from Jurassic Park, and same exact thing. This is real life. in real life, do you think humans would react in a same way towards dinosaurs that they act in this movie, where it's like big game hunters and companies want to take them?
I
and
definitely
use them?
think the rich would big game hunt dinosaurs. No doubt in my mind. The rich kill
I could
things
so
for,
see it.
for
I could
pleasure.
so see like a Bezos being like, I want a picture with a stegosaurus.
I want a picture of me killing this like beautiful creature that we can only imagine. And I mean, I see, I mean, the first image that comes to mind is like the Jimmy John's founder with the dead lion.
Was it Papa John? No. Papa John did something else.
No, it's Jimmy John.
Jonathan.
I remember seeing that and I'm like, I'm never going to eat at Jimmy John's again. Like I was so upset because I just don't understand big game hunting. I don't understand it. Like these creatures are like meant to be on, they're like creatures of the earth.
You were like, okay, so when that scene was going down of them capturing the dinosaurs,
I got upset.
You got like visibly upset.
Yeah.
You're like, I hate hearing dinosaurs cry.
I hate hearing animals in distress. Like I can't do it. And like I'm a meat eater. Like I eat meat from farms, like cattle and like poultry and stuff. And like I tried the whole vegetarian
animals
thing.
that are, I don't want to.
They're bred for consumption,
yeah, right?
But like,
respectfully, we say that. Like,
I mean, I know that I would love to not be able to eat meat, but when I didn't eat meat and when I was a vegetarian, I got very sick and kind of like forced my hand. Like, doctors recommended I.
But like, we wouldn't go out and eat like, I don't know. Like,
I know, but I don't go out and
eat a horse.
But I don't go out and like hurt animals. I don't go out and capture animals on purpose. Like it really hurts my heart to hear animals in distress. And like I can't watch like nature docs. I can't watch like hunting TV shows. Like I can't do any of that. It's because I have so much compassion for even fictional animals where I get like so upset. I'm like, these animals are just meant here to be beautiful. And you're meant to just watch and observe. It's like, it breaks my heart just like see people capture them. I don't even like zoos. Like
you didn't like, so when we watched when Tiger King came out, and you were like, this is horror. You were like in shock. You're like, this is horrible that people do these to these big cats, that you straight up abuse these large animals, and you trank them so much, and like, it's like no wonder why these animals like rip someone's arm off like or attack somebody.
That's what gets me. It's
They're
like
not supposed to be in these environments.
We mistreat animals, like wild animals. Wild animals are not meant for you to keep. Like they're not meant for you to have as a pet. Like
a dog is domesticated.
They're domesticated
right?
over like thousands of years. It took to get dogs domesticated, and our dog is just sitting in his little bed now.
Yeah, he calmed down. We brought his bed in the room.
And he immediately goes sleepy time.
Yeah.
He just wanted to be by. Oh my God, he's so cute. But like a lion, a tiger, bears, like
oh my,
not meant to be captive by humans. We're not meant to be feeding them by hand. We're not meant to be like in a situation where we're in a cage with them.
Like the whole idea of like Joe Exotic was like, these animals think I'm their friend, like they trust me, we play together. And it's like, no, that animal gets one opportunity to rip your arm off, it's going to do that.
It's like you treat this animal like garbage. He has no play, no enrichment. He's stuck in a cage. You think about how much space a lion has in the wild, and then you look at the amount of space they have at a zoo or at one of these like wildlife things. Not a wildlife refuge. So there are animals that if they're bred in captivity, like animals that get rescued from those kinds of situations, they go to wildlife rescues that are like huge. But those places, those like fun, like those zoos, wildlife private zoos, they don't have the facilities to cater to these animals. And these animals, they're not dumb. They're their first opportunity to get you. They're gonna get you. They know they're being mistreated.
Yeah. This brought up a whole
I just hate the
whole debate where it's like,
I don't like SeaWorld. Like, I'm
like
anti-SeaWorld.
animal captivity and big game hunting. I guess
I'm very anti-captivity.
I had told you when we watched this movie, I'm like, I don't know if I have a lot to say about it, but I think I do. The more I dig deep and the more I, dissect.
Is that
really
reflective?
what this movie is about?
Is this movie trying to make like a statement about zoos and like? I'm sorry, I hate SeaWorld. Watch the movie Blackfish. Maybe we'll watch
I've never seen Blackfish. It'd be the first view for me.
It's a hard one for me to watch. Cried so heavily when watching. Makes me sad. But it's like, we have to really think about, like, especially these killer whales going from like the ocean to like a swimming pool sized habitat. These animals could live like 3 times as long in the wild, but they die early deaths because they have no enrichment, and they usually kill themselves.
It makes me think about the line that you had mentioned previously that Malcolm says, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, right? Like, us being here is disruptive of their environment. And it reminds me of like stuff I learned in like 5th grade about ecosystems and niches, where it's like you introduce something that's not supposed to be in an ecosystem to the ecosystem, and you disrupt everything, and the entire thing is forced to change.
And I think about that as we as humans build further and further into animal habitats, and then we wonder why we have these animals that are in our neighborhoods, like coyote problems, deer problems. It's like, they were always here. You're the one that's in where they live. And that's what we really have to think. And when humans are long gone, animals will still be here. And that's what keeps me going. I mean, once we're gone, they'll have a better place for them to live. And
saw a Facebook post today, like a meme shit post, where it was like, possible Jurassic Park sequel, 3 million years in the future AD, dino scientists find a mosquito with human blood. They clone Jeff Goldblum.
That would be a good clone.
That'd be a good sequel, I think.
Okay, so we get into it. Owen finds the baby T-Rex. It's badly hurt. Its leg is broken. He grabs it. Worst idea ever. Brings it to the trailer. Sarah is like, what did you do? Like, this is not a good idea. She knows right away, like, this shouldn't happen. Kelly knows that she's not safe. Kelly's like,
she's like, I need to get out of here.
She's
right
like,
now.
we need to get out. She's like, Dad, I need to get out of here. We need to go to we need to get up high. And so he does what his daughter asked him to do. He takes her up to the hideaway with Carr. And then we hear, once they're up in the hideaway, a T-Rex.
You hear the stomping.
No, the T-Rex, like,
roar. The roar. Yeah, you hear the roar first.
And we know immediately there's a T-Rex on its way. Kelly begs Malcolm to stay. He's like, no, but I'll be back. And he's like, I promise. And she's like, you never keep your promises.
Because he's a bad dad.
Yeah. He goes in, kind of tells them both, like, hey, like, we
need to get the F out.
We need to get out of here. Mom's mad. Mom's here and Dad's here.
Yeah, so whereas in the first Jurassic Park, we were dealing with 1 T-Rex, now it's a sequel, right? You got to one-up yourself. Now we're dealing with 3 T-Rex, really, if you're including the baby.
And this proves that the T-Rexes care for their young.
Yeah. And so that line of dialogue, very quick explanation of partially why Sarah is there on the island to prove this thing, is now coming into fruition and is proved to be correct.
And then we have like this big action sequence. So I'm going to kind of like push through it.
Well, I got a couple things like that I noticed out of this action sequence. So the T-Rex, both of them like plow into this mobile lab that they're in,
but they don't right away like try to knock it off the cliff. They get the baby back, and then they think that they're fine because they go off into the woods knowing full well they're going to put their baby back where it's supposed to be. But both mom
and then they want
and
revenge.
Dad come back to like kind of
revengers.
Yeah, they really.
So there's this shot of when the lab tumbles and they're inside the lab, and Goldblum and Sarah and Vince Vaughn's character, they all kind of tumble, and so the lab tumbles, and they're walking on kind of the walls of the mobile lab as it's spinning around. And I wrote a note. I'm like, I wonder how they filmed that. And it makes me think of like how they filmed Inception. So there's a scene where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is like walking on the walls, and the way they filmed that was basically that they had a room where it looked like it was spinning, I think, and I'm gonna butcher the explanation of this. Like, I have it in my head, but it's really hard to explain. Maybe we'll get it if we watch Inception later. But the way it was essentially a trick with the camera, a trick with the way that the set designer set up this room to look like it was spinning, but also keep Joseph Gordon-Levitt's feet on the ground, so to speak. I'm butchering this explanation, but
everyone out there is like,
it's like I'm picturing it, but I can't explain it. This is why I'm not.
Well, then they come back. They kind of like
production design.
They half of the trailer goes down, and we have car comes down from the hide hole. He says they went back into the, like, they're gone. He's like, what do you guys need? They're like, a rope, and they joke like a Big Mac and like some fries and apple pie. And so he goes to get like a rope to help them, and he ties it to the car.
Yeah, Eddie is there.
Yeah,
right?
Eddie Carr. And then they come back again.
The T-Rexes murk Eddie. He gets potentially the worst death. I don't know. Is this the worst death of the
Eddie
movie?
gets like a horrible death both in the book and in...
So in the movie, the two T-Rexes split Eddie in half, and then they each eat a half of him.
Is it worse that in the book, he gets ripped down from the high hide by the velociraptors and eaten alive while everybody listens?
I think the movie death is worse. I think it's worse because, like, they don't, the T-Rex, they grab his leg at first, and then they kind of like throw him up, and then one T-Rex grabs one half and one T-Rex grabs the other, and then they tear him in half and eat him.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Then they get out, like the whole like lab falls down around them. They're all holding on to the rope. They climb up. They're thankful to be alive, but they have nothing left, so they have to go get help from the baddies.
Well, they get rescued by the baddies.
Yeah, so
they Team B.
Yeah, they have to work with the meanies to be able to survive. So they're like, we have to get to safety. The bad part is we have to go through the interior of the island, and that's where the predators are. We get that
asshole hunter whose name I can't remember. He, at one point earlier in the film, insults and tases. What's that dinosaur's name? The little guy. Compsognathus. Yeah. He basically was like, You're little. What are you gonna do to me? And the one paleontologist,
they're not afraid of people.
Paleontologist that's with that group says, well, they've never seen humans, so they're not afraid. They have no reason to be afraid of humans. So he tases the little guy, and he says, oh, well, now they do. And
he ends up getting murked.
Oh, yeah. So that's another like callback that the movie makes, where it's like, you set up that he's a dick to this little dino, and
that's how he dies.
The little dino and his friends, they hunt him. Essentially, they attack him at first, and then he like kind of pushes them away, and it looks like he scared them away, but all the little dinos and their friends, they come back at him, and they chase him to like a river, like a little water area, and all we see is him just getting
we don't even see the death.
It's off camera, but we hear him getting eaten, and then we see the blood trickle down into the water.
Yeah, so he gets murked. The big game hunter goes off to try to find him. They make up camp. The only people in a tent is Kelly and Sarah. They're in a tent. All the other guys are just like sleeping all like next to each other out in the open. And the T-Rex comes to camp, smelling the blood on Sarah's jacket.
Yeah.
Which she has hanging above her in the tent.
Which the paleontologist that's with them, he dies because he gets eaten by a T-Rex. But they also kind of explain too that the T-Rex keep coming back because
Now they have a bigger sense of what their territory is because they were attacked.
So now they're being defensive over the territory that they're in. Again, when you introduce an element that's not supposed to be in an ecosystem to
You're
an
disrupting
ecosystem,
everything.
you're disrupting it, and now those animals that are in that ecosystem feel as though they have a responsibility to defend the area that they are in or their territory.
So they're trying to be still because we assume that the same principle applies, that if you're just still, they won't know you're there. But again, we also know that that's probably not correct.
I have a bone to pick with, well, not a bone to pick, but a comment about that scene where, and rewinding a little bit, that scene where that asshole hunter gets killed by the little dino guys, who's, I keep butchering. Compsognathus. I brought up a question to you at this point, and I feel like this is a worthy conversational piece. This goes back to the age-old question: would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 50 duck-sized horses? And this is the same scenario. It's like, would you rather fight a T-Rex or would you rather fight 100 Compsognathus?
I mean, either way, you get murked.
Either way, you get murked, but like, which way is going to be more horrific?
I feel like Compsognathus would be just a very painful, slow death because their bites are not that big. I would say it's equivalent to getting bit by like a goose or something.
A horse-sized or a duck-sized horse.
Yeah. So
that
so
like you can kick Compsognathus, but there's so many of them that I don't know if you're going to be able to fight this fight. My answer to that question is always I would rather fight the horse-sized duck because 1 versus 50 versus against 1 versus 1, I have a better shot at 1v1 me, noob.
So we get they start running from the T-Rex, even though they should. It's like Malcolm says, stop running, stay still, blah blah blah. But they get away. Some of the people get stepped on. Some people get ate. They go run into like a waterfall. We have Owen, we have Sarah, we have Kelly hiding in the waterfall with some other guy. A snake falls down, the other guy freaks out.
To which I was like, are there going to be spiders in this?
And he moves away from the wall and he gets snatched and ate.
Well, the T-Rex is licking them too.
Oh yeah, gross.
Little T-Rex tongue.
And then they think the T-Rex is coming back, but it's just Malcolm, and he comes.
There's a cool shot too of them running from the T-Rex because, well, something we didn't mention before is that though this movie does the same thing as the first one, where it's a mixture of animatronic and puppetry with visual effects and CGI, it definitely leans more on CGI. And in the 4 years between the first one and the second one, the development of computer-generated imagery had gone up so much that they were able to do much more with the CGI. So instead of getting these animatronic velociraptors, now we get full CGI velociraptors. We get puppet. And
the velociraptors look a lot better in this movie.
They look a lot better. Everything looks a lot better in this movie. It's not as stunning as the first movie because you know that the first movie was like the first time anybody was ever seeing some of this stuff. This one leans a little bit heavily into the visual effects aspect and the CGI aspect, but it makes for some pretty cool shots. Like you can definitely tell that these actors were acting towards nothing in that regard, but there's like this shot of all of the people from Team B running forward through the woods while the T-Rex is behind them and chasing them, and that's like a really cool shot, I thought.
Terrifying. Could you imagine? And people getting stomped because they're just not running fast enough because T-Rex was quite fast. I mean, not as fast as a raptor though. So then we get the one group running through the tall grass, and we know the tall grass in the interior of the island is home to velociraptors, and they like run through raptor territory. They're in trouble. Malcolm realizes they're in raptor territory. He tells everyone to run. The raptors are kind of busy with the other group of people picking them off, so not so much.
And we get these like cool scenes of like the CG velociraptor that pounces on somebody. Like we didn't see that in the last one. There's a lot of cool stuff. it's like we're seeing T-Rex again and we're seeing Velociraptor again for the sequel, but they're doing different things with them. We're seeing things that we didn't see before.
And then they get to the InGen complex on the island. They go to the complex. We call for help. Like, this is our coordinates. We need rescue. There's lots of casualties. Owen does a great job getting that helicopter there, telling them we need help right away. But then we have Malcolm, Kelly, and Sarah have to fight off some velociraptors. We have this cool scene where
you think it's cool. I didn't think
gymnastics saves the day. Kelly like does like some cool like uneven bars kind of
so she's
stuff.
On a bar, and you know that thing that gymnastics do where they get on this bar and they use the momentum from the jump to grab the bar and swing back and forth, like do little flips back and forth, and eventually you release from the bar and you do your little flips and you do your gymnastics.
She just like kicked the velociraptor.
Yeah, she swings and like drop kicks the velociraptor, and this guy flies
out
like
the window
10 feet.
And no, he just flies right out the window and he lands on like a spike, so he dies.
I don't know. You thought that was cool. I thought that was unnecessary.
I mean,
I thought that threw off a lot of some things in the movie.
It's the big raptor chase.
I can suspend my disbelief for velociraptors and CGI dinosaurs. I don't know if I can suspend my disbelief for a 12-year-old girl drop kicking a dinosaur out of a window.
Well, then we have at the big game hunter goes to try and take down the T-Rex. Owen has taken the bullets out of the gun, so this guy has no choice but to use the tranks. And we find out at this point he does trank the father T-Rex, and the father T-Rex is
he's captured.
He's captured.
They King Kong him.
Well, now we get back to the complex. Like, they have defended themselves, occupied the velociraptors. They're busy fighting each other now. And they get on the helicopter and they're lifted out. And Owen has the bullets in his hand. Is like, at least we know that he's not getting what he wants. But then we get the nephew and the big game hunter with all of the dinosaur, like with the big dinosaur they captured. Well, at least T-Rex. He's like, at least we got this.
Yeah, and then they pull a King Kong where they're just like, lock him up, put him on a ship, we're bringing him to America.
And the big game hunter says he doesn't want anything to do with this anymore.
Well, they offer him a job at the San Diego Jurassic Park, and he's like, nope, I don't want to be around death anymore. Yeah, and I said that's the smartest thing anyone said in this movie.
His like friend died. His friend didn't make it, and I think that really got him. So then next we are on the dock in San Diego, and
Malcolm and Sarah are trying to meet with Hammond's nephew to try to stop him from introducing the big spectacle or the attraction for Jurassic Park.
And the nephew's like, the boat's gonna be here in 30 minutes, but then they like call him and they're like, the boat's like right here and it's coming in hot.
Not stopping.
It's coming in hot. And we find out like everyone on this boat is pretty much dead. Almost everyone. There are people who are still alive on the boat who got away, who were able to lock it back in.
But now you have successfully brought a T-Rex to mainland America, and now this T-Rex gets off of the boat and starts rampaging through downtown San Diego.
And like Sarah says, like, what happened? It's like, well, he was tranked and it wasn't breathing, so we gave him something to counteract it. And she's like, you gave this dinosaur something to counteract it, not knowing the ramifications of it. She's like, you pretty much given like him a bulldozer mentality. He's gonna run rampant.
These are stupid decisions that these characters make. You're not dealing with the average bear. You're dealing with a freaking T-Rex.
And she's like an expert. She says it's gonna find water, and then what does it need next? Food. And so it finds a swimming pool at a little kid's house. He's like, there's a dinosaur in the backyard. Mom and dad are like, what's this kid? Because he eats before bed and the nightlight, blah, blah, blah. Then they see the dinosaur comes up. He has the dog dog house.
Does the dog die?
Yes.
Yeah, the dog dies, unfortunately.
And then the kid goes to take a picture. Not a good idea.
The Flash spooks the T-Rex.
Him. He goes rampaging around the town. He eats a couple of different people. We talked about who's going to have to pay for this.
Yeah, I mentioned that when we watched it. I'm like, okay, so T-Rex gets off the boat, rampages through downtown San Diego, causes a tremendous amount of collateral damage, kills a number of people, kills a dog in the process. Who's taking accountability?
I said
for this?
InGen. They're going to be even more in debt.
Like, well, people need to go to jail. Like, people died, Brie.
Who went to jail for the Jurassic Park incident? Nobody. They just got lawsuit after lawsuit. But that was people who volunteered to go,
Brie,
and they signed.
Like, people died in America.
So then Sarah's like, "Where's the baby? We have no reason to believe it won't do what it did before, coming after it." So they have the idea. They grab it. They go in a car. They're like, "Oh, it's not making sounds," but then the dinosaur stops and like sniffs. He knows the baby's near. Does a chase. We get to the boat. We put the baby down there. Malcolm and Sarah, they jump off the boat. They put the baby in like the little cargo hold area where they keep the dinosaurs, and they jump off. They're done. Nephew's still on the boat wondering what's going on. He goes down to the cargo hold because he wants the baby. He wants to keep the baby.
He's doing everything in his power to try to preserve the baby, regardless of the giant ass T-Rex that's rampaging through the city.
And the big T-Rex comes in to the little cargo hold, gets him by the leg, doesn't kill him. He wants the baby to eat him.
He's like, "Go ahead, baby."
And then the baby,
Brie gave solid commentary throughout this scene where she was like, "I had my dinner already, baby. It is your turn."
Yeah, I was like acting as dad, giving the dad like dinosaur voice.
Go ahead, baby.
Go ahead, baby. It's your turn. Food. I ate already. It's your turn. And then Sarah, from a good distance, darts as they close, and then they don't take any like chances this time. We get a news broadcast that the boat's on its way back to the island.
Isla Sorna.
There's tons of boats surrounding it and helicopters, so that there's like no chance this happens again. And then we kind of
Hammond says that it is going to be turned into a nature preserve where it's going to go uninterrupted, no human interaction on the island, and that's it. Lost World.
The Lost World.
Does what do you think about Jeff Goldblum's performance in this movie?
I mean, he did a good job. Like, it's really good. He's really good in this.
I think Jeff Goldblum is a really interesting actor, and I wish he was in more stuff, because aside from like Jurassic Park and The Fly and his appearance in Thor Ragnarok, like, I don't know what else this guy's
and he's so fantastic. Like, I love
the way he delivers lines is very natural
and comforting. So like, you can tell like he improvises a little bit. Like, that's just the nature of his acting, because there's a lot of ums and there's a lot of like stumbling over yourself. But that's how people talk.
And it makes it seem really natural, where at the beginning, when there's the interaction between him and his daughter is acting, and she's acting her butt off. And she's trying to deliver these lines as an actor. And it's very noticeable she's just trying to deliver lines, and Jeff Goldblum's trying to have a conversation, And
I guess it shows the difference between like a really good actor and like someone who's acting.
Yeah. But that's what I noticed a little bit about Jeff Goldblum's performance, is that between this movie and the last one, he's definitely a more natural in conversation and in dialogue. And in the performance of those things. Here's what I don't know if I disliked this or if I liked it. First movie doesn't really portray Ian Malcolm as an action person. He's
a mathematician.
But we have established in this movie, he's on a rescue mission.
Well, I think what is different is that his character, he as a person, has changed. A paleontologist like seeked him out. She wanted to learn from him. It talks about when he was sick in the hospital in Costa Rica, she came to him and wanted to talk to him. They started dating after that. He's in a relationship with someone who is all about dinosaurs. He had this experience where he has seen how dinosaurs behave. He wants to rescue. He knows so much more about dinosaurs. He's more prepared. I think he's in survival mode. Like he has some sort of.
You mentioned that when
he
in
has
that scene
some
where the
sort of
T-Rex
like
attacks the camp. You're like, oh, he's in survival mode now.
Like you just want to. He knows to stop moving. He's trying to get other people to listen because he's been here before.
I think we get less mathematician,
more
and scientist,
survivalist,
more survivalist.
Which I would say he has the credentials to do because he has experienced the first Jurassic. He's a different person than when he got on the island in the first movie.
They said in the first one, I brought scientists, you brought a rock star, in talking about Ian Malcolm. I don't think he's very rock star.
No, he
movie.
lost.
And he's not very scientist.
He lost all credibility when he started talking about dinosaurs. I remember like he's crazy. But you have to assume, and I'm just gonna assume out of like when I went through a traumatic experience where I was in a fight or flight position, my natural response was I'm going to try my best to become strong and know how to fight now. So I have to assume, I want to assume that Malcolm thought the same. Maybe he's done some survival training since then. It kind of gives you back that, like, your autonomy, your confidence, because you had in that situation in the first movie, all your like confidence and your will was probably stripped away from you. It's like a terrifying experience. You had no control. So to get some of that control back, you learn how to be a survivalist. I think he was more prepared.
Yeah, for sure.
In this movie, not just like the mathematician. He knew about the dinosaurs this time.
Yeah.
Where in the first one, like Grant knew to stop moving. Grant knew.
But they were dinosaur experts.
But I think he kind of learned. He
became a dinosaur expert overnight, essentially.
You have to assume like there's maybe a year or so, actually more than that because the kids are more grown, like a couple years between this.
It's a 4-year gap.
Yeah, so you have to assume that he probably spent a lot of time. He's a smart guy. He probably was researching.
He's dating a paleontologist, so yeah. I'm sure she's teaching him some stuff.
Yeah, so very interesting take on this movie. I love dinosaur movies. You know me.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you, Brie, as we've wrapped up our discussion, our dissection of this movie, talked about a lot of different things. We've really, I think this in Jurassic Park, I don't know, maybe our first discussion about Halloween, but I think we're really starting to dig into like the things that movies have to say and the themes that are there and the deeper discussion that has to be had about why characters make decisions or what these writers and directors are trying to say. When we talk about like these other Halloween movies,
they don't have anything to say.
They're meaningless sequels, right? Like you're not saying a lot.
And I feel like in the Jurassic Park sequels, we are saying something. Less with the new ones. I mean,
but definitely like
the first and second one, they have things to say.
Yeah. And I didn't think, before we got into this discussion that we're having right now, I didn't think that the Lost World had a lot to say, but really the more we
can change your mind, right?
Brainstorm about it, I guess, the more
you can see why I like these movies, because I'm very passionate. I'm like, these movies have something to say.
Well, I think the first one had a lot to say about, the idea of business over lives, or not listening to the science, wanting to rush things, business people standing on the shoulders of those who do the work.
And this one's more interfering with nature.
Yes. Yeah.
And like it's disturbing the natural order.
Ecological discussion of are we disturbing an environment, and what are the consequences of disturbing an environment like that? What happens when you take the park and bring it to San Francisco?
Like what are the ramifications of taking animals out of their habitats and putting them somewhere else?
Yeah. I think it does have quite a bit to say. Brie, does this movie go on your list of the top 100? It does?
It does go on my top 100. I love this movie. I love both books too. I think as we get to the third movie, we'll see if it makes it. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen, maybe a year since I've seen. I've watched these movies often. So you have to think that my reviews are like my 10th, 11th, 12th, maybe even 20th review.
Yeah.
So we'll get into the third one. I mean, the third one also takes place on Isla Sorna. Like, no, we're not back on the first island. So we're on site B again.
I was on the fence about this movie because, storyline wise, I don't think that it's as interesting. Like, the way that the story progresses, I don't think that it's as
don't you think it has something meaningful
let me
to say?
finish. I don't think that it's as interesting as the first one. Like, I wasn't captivated like I was with the first one. But I do think that it has a lot of solid commentary and meaningfulness to say. So if I'm creating a list of movies that have been what I think is really, really significant, historically significant, has a large impact on cinema moving forward, is great in terms of the direction, the cinematography, the screenwriting, all that good stuff, like, just generally has like good things about it, and it is significant. I was on the fence about this movie, and initially my thing was, no, it's not going to go on the list. But I think our conversation today swayed me, and I think I'm gonna add it to the list.
Yay! It's like, it's not gonna be as high as the original, because the original really was lightning in a bottle, as Anthony would say. This one, I just think it has important messages in it.
Yeah.
And I think when we make this list of like movies you must see, like, this isn't the it's the best movies of all time. Like, they are really good movies, and
but if you're looking deeper, then
but if you want to have a movie it's more than just, the action in this is really good, but it's like the message that this movie sends is very important, and it's very meaningful, and I think it's worth a watch, and I think that everyone should watch it.
Yeah.
And this is a movie that I think everyone should watch. Yeah.
So I'm going to add it to the list. I don't know the place. This is only the third movie that is on both of our lists. And towards the end of the year, we can revise the list, maybe see if it's going on the second list or maintains its place on the first one. We can discuss that later on once we get through the first year. But I'm confident. I think that this movie deserves a spot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening with us. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, review_pod.
For any bonus content, if you want to see more of the very good...
they were delicious. We both had
cups.
A cup of them.
Yeah. And if you want to see any other bonus content regarding, I don't know, maybe I post some stuff about behind the scenes. Maybe we post some stuff about other Brie treats that are in consideration. Maybe we post our notes one day for bonus content. That would be fun. You can always follow us. See how our brain works when we're watching the movies. You can always follow us on our Instagram at review_pod. You can follow me on Twitter for any updates, or if you want to, I don't really post that much, but if you want to follow me, GLDTV1. And then you can see us on YouTube. If you're not watching our video modem, we are Review Podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to us, and you can see all the cool stuff that we have on our desk, and you can see the Brie's treats that she made. We're on every platform that you can listen to a podcast, so make sure you follow us on Spotify. I know I follow us on Spotify. Listen to us in the car. I follow us on Apple Podcasts because that's my modem. So you can get to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere where you can get podcasts. We're up there. Brie, would you like to sign off for us? Before we sign off, we want you to come and email us and tell us what you want us to review for you. We're always looking for ideas. We've talked about maybe going through some of Steven Spielberg's stuff, maybe doing Disney Renaissance. If you have an idea for us, please email us at reviewpodcast1@gmail.com. Yep. I'm Brie. I'm Anthony.
And this is the review podcast. Review podcast.